My name is Joel Babbitt. I work on behalf of the association. I'm going to start the program with a quick little overview of 457 and a way that we've been educating people on how to avoid state income taxes. And so that's why it's retirement healthcare funding with a 457B chaser, with a Roth 457B chaser. And so for those that have the VEBA, I will not be offended if I'm through this and you walk out. I get it. We'll be talking about some new ways people are using it. But basically, the 457 limits this year, you can defer 100% of your salary to $22,500. If you're an old guy like me at 58, you can do up to 30 grand. That 30 grand can be all pre-tax, it can be all Roth, or any combination of the two. If you're Tier 1, age 47, and you've not maxed out since the day you were hired, or Tier 2, age 52, you've got something called the alternative catch-up. The alternative allows you to potentially double down for 3 consecutive years. If you're IMRF, it's different ages. But basically, you could defer up to $45,000 a year for 3 consecutive years. The limit will probably go up again next year. The money in the Roth 457, so the money can be pre-tax, it can be Roth. If you're doing a Roth contribution, you pay no income tax on any of the money when you take it out. Sort of like a Roth IRA on steroids. The difference between the pre-tax and Roth outside of taxation, the other big difference is when you can access the money. If you're in the 457 Roth, you have to be 59 and a half to access your money, and the first Roth deposit or conversion has to be 5 years old. Pop quiz. When can you access your 457 pre-tax? How old do you have to be? Wrong. Separation of service. Doesn't matter how old you are. Your 457 pre-tax, as soon as you separate service, you can start accessing the money. So there's something called an in-plan Roth conversion. All the vendors should be having this in their plan. Basically, you put the money in pre-tax. You can convert all of your money in your account from pre-tax to Roth. It's sort of like a Harry Potter magic wand. You fill out a 2-page form, you sign the thing, you send it into your vendor, and within your account, it converts your money from pre-tax to Roth. Okay? What does the state of Illinois not tax? Retirement plans, right? Most people think pensions only. The state does not tax your 457, your IRAs, your 401ks. If you had a 403B because you're working at a hospital or in a school district, if you're Governor Pritzker with an IRA with $1 billion, the state doesn't tax any of his distributions. Okay? The state doesn't tax distributions. So when you convert money within your account, the state doesn't tax that distribution. So if you think it through, if you were to make a Roth contribution into your deferred comp plan or a Roth IRA contribution, you're paying federal tax on the deposit, on anything you're putting into it. You've paid federal income taxes, plus you've paid 4.95% to the state. If you do it as an in-plan Roth conversion, you don't pay the state of Illinois any income tax on that. It's a way not to pay the state. Okay? You can convert all of your money inside your deferred comp account from pre-tax to Roth. Whatever you convert, you're going to have to pay taxes on. So let's talk about that. So if you've got money and you convert and your income's between $80,251 and $171,000 filing jointly, and if you convert $20,000, you're going to owe about $4,400 in income taxes on that money. So you take a piece of paper, take out your Harry Potter magic wand, sign the thing, send it into the vendor. We're going to recategorize $20,000 from pre-tax to Roth. You'll see it show up in your account as a Roth conversion. We'll also issue you a 1099. So if you do 20 grand this year, in January of next year, you're going to get a 1099 for $20,000. You're going to owe federal taxes on it, no state. So if you're really astute, what should you have done when the market lost 35% of its value between Super Bowl Sunday, when the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl in modern history, and March 22nd or March 23rd of 2020? The market lost 35% of its value. You should have been doing some in-plan Roth conversions. Now I tell you. So instead, if you're doing a Roth IRA and you're not maxing out your deferred comp, in my opinion, you're making a mistake. You should be doing in-plan Roth conversions because you don't pay the state of Illinois any income tax. So, and you can convert as much as you want. You could also, in this example, you could go to payroll and say to payroll, hey, withhold an extra $100 a check, $200 a check for federal taxes. You got some of it covered then. So there's just some ways to take care of it to allow you to use a tax system more efficiently. So what did the S&P 500 do in 2022? It stunk. It lost 20%. If you did your contributions into your deferred comp as a Roth, you lost 24% because you paid state income tax on that deposit. But if you did it as an in-plan Roth conversion, you didn't lose it because you didn't pay any state income tax on it. So there are 3 states in the union. And for people, anybody grew up in Pennsylvania? Okay, Pennsylvania is a commonwealth, so I gave the speech in Pennsylvania and they yelled at me. We're not a state. Sorry. Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and Illinois are 3 states that have an income tax but don't tax retirement plan distributions. There are other states like Colorado that exempt the first 30 or 35,000 of retirement income on the state level. Michigan just reinstated the exemption of governmental pensions as income for retirees. Talk about a stick to Illinois. So if you're in Michigan as a retiree, you don't pay any state of Michigan income tax on your pension as a governmental employee. So it's just a way to get more money and a way to use your deferred comp plan. And again, it's just a matter of using a tool that's already there. So if you're with us inside of Transamerica, our deferred comp plan, you go into your account, go to Forms and Distributions. It's the 4th form from the bottom, in-plan Roth. The thing's a 12-page form. You only need page 1 and 2. We have many people that do it every pay period. I've been doing it for almost 11 years personally with my own 401k. I was doing it every pay period. Then I got bored and tired of it, so I just do it in chunks as time goes on. The mistake I made in 2022 was I converted a big chunk of money February 3rd, maybe February 4th. In 2022, what day was the market high? The first trading day of the year. So I did the conversion, wrote it all the way down. That's the way it goes, okay? But I still didn't pay state taxes on it. So currently, the state of Illinois does not tax retirement plan distributions. Defer what you can pre-tax into your deferred comp, then convert it. It's a better way of doing Roth, all right? So there's, I think, the end of my Roth chaser. Any questions on the 457 in-plan Roth conversion? Yes? No? No? Okay. So let's talk about retirement health care funding. I know we spoke a little bit about it in DROP. And so we talked in DROP about recruiting and retention. We're seeing more and more on the recruiting retention side, the 115 Trusted Retirement Health Care Funding Plan being brought on the management side versus the labor side because they're grasping for ways to recruit people. And so how many people do you have to start a training class or to start on a recruiting list to have one come out of the academy? The number's much more significant than what it's been in a long time. So let's have a little fun with this. Sorry if you've seen this video before, but I can't find a better one. If you could turn up the volume, be appreciated. And if not, I will go past it. Okay.
Just got a job as a lifeguard in Savannah.
I'm 85 and I want to go home. Dropping sick beats, they call me DJ Nana. 85 and I want to go.
Don't get mad. Get E-Trade, kiddo.
So thank you, E-Trade, for making some great commercials. So what you've got going on is you've got a guy like this. He should be here or here, but they're not because of healthcare costs. These things are a certainty in life. And in looking at the people I know in the crowd that are retired, we have many conversations about how expensive health care is. Okay? You got to pay for it. It's not free. The last thing you want is to be enjoying your finer years. This is actually Trailer Estates, Florida. LJ and I were sitting outside of a firehouse making a sales call. This thing's sitting outside the firehouse. And I immediately go, hey, the dude couldn't afford his health insurance premiums. They booted his thing. He didn't pay his assessment. I don't know. But just crazy. So let's pretend you work until 65. If you and your spouse are 65, you go on Medicare. Can anybody tell me how much of your paycheck they withhold for Medicare premiums, Medicare tax? Anybody know the number? 145. It's 1.45% is what's held for Medicare. Your employer's matching it at another 1.45%. So over your lifetime, you're spending 2.9% of your salary on Medicare. So a lot of times when people get to Medicare, they go, hey, it's free. I've been spending all this money. The reality is that the Medicare premium or tax you've been paying is sort of like the cover charge at the bar. You still got to buy the booze, okay? And so there's a company called Milliman. They do these studies every year, and they say, if you and your spouse are 65 in 2022, how much money are you going to incur over the remainder of your lives on Medicare? They're saying a couple retiring in 2022 is projected to need $371,000 in savings at age 65 to cover Medicare. Medicare Part B premiums went up 14.5% in 2022. Did your COLA go up by 14.5% on your pension? I don't think so. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, 70% of us over the age of 65 are going to need some sort of long-term care assistance. Medicare doesn't cover that. And fortunately for you, we think Medicare, there's also Medicaid. Medicaid's for the poor. You're never going to be poor because of your pension. Okay, you're always going to be covered by Medicare. Fidelity does a comparable study to Milliman. The difference between Fidelity and Milliman is that Fidelity assumes you're all Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and so is your partner. Okay, you're on no meds. Your body fat's at 2%. All right? So they assume you need less money once you get onto Medicare. So what does Medicare not cover? Prescription drugs, long-term care, deductibles and co-pays, most dental care, primarily dentures. Vision, eyeglasses, hearing aids, cosmetic surgery, and medical marijuana. And medical care outside the U.S. is not covered as well. This is my wife's Uncle Al. He's 97. He was a medic at the end of World War II. Actually, it was funny. We were with him about 3 months ago because he got a pacemaker put in. And he's at Gidwitz in Deerfield. It's $296 a day. It's $108,000 a year. He was a medic in World War II. He was in a German POW camp in Idaho, is where this picture was taken. He was on the boat on Seattle in the harbor when they dropped the atomic weapons. He was going to be shipped over to Japan, waiting for the invasion. So it's very interesting hearing him tell the stories about just the medics in World War II and the crew that he was with. So here's our experience. Pre-65 retirees. So before you make it to Medicare, we handle thousands of claims a month. When we look at the range of claims, outside of the city of Aurora command staff that they pay virtually nothing for health care when they retire, the premiums range from about $700 a month to $3,400 a month. Sorry, I didn't make fun of you guys, but $700 a month to $3,400 a month. I was with Cleet the other day talking to him about it, so that's the problem. So healthcare premiums are paid with after-tax money when you retire, and the pension will remit the premium on your behalf, okay? So if this is your pension check, $105,000 salary, 30 years of service, 75% pension. They're going to withhold 20% for federals. For the $6,562 pension is now down to $5,250. If your premium is $1,250 a month, and that's about what we're experiencing for an employee and spouse. Your check's down to $4,000. 39% of your check is gone between taxes and health care. And that's our typical experience. You've not made a utility payment. You've not made a mortgage payment. You could be like me with 2 kids in college. You've not made any of those payments, put food on the table, any of that stuff. So we typically see 40% of a pension check is going off the top. The other piece is inflation from 2001 through 2020 was really non-existent. It averaged 1.91%. That's it. Healthcare premiums over the same period of time averaged 5.27. So healthcare on average runs about 2.75 times regular inflation. How was inflation the last couple of years? Was it really low? It was terrible. Well, that's part of why we saw in 2022 that Medicare Part B premiums went up by 14.5%. So if you retire at 55 and your goal is just to get to 65, your deferred comp account, you're going to spend about $240,000 because your premiums are going to run you $191. That's the premiums, not including deductibles, copays, coinsurance, dental, vision, chiropractic, any out-of-pocket expense. That's just the 10-year window. Then you couple it with, you're Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, how much do you need for Medicare? Let's say you only need $315. The $315 number is you're both healthy. That's an 80% probability of having enough money. That's what Fidelity tells us. You need $554,000. Healthcare costs are just devastating. And so what do these plans do? Money goes in tax-free, gross tax-free comes out tax-free. In its simplest form, you're laundering money. You're allowing the U.S. government to subsidize your health care through the tax code, is what you're doing. The catch is the money can only come out for medical expenses, including premiums. The money goes in pre-Medicare, pre-Social Security, so it saves you the Medicare tax, saves the employer the match. If you're Social Security, it saves you the Social Security tax, saves the employer the match. Okay? So what can I use this account for? You reimburse yourself for all qualified medical expenses once you separate service. Our trust, and you can add components to your trust depending on the vendor, has 2 additional triggers. One of the triggers is, I'm going to call it FMLA. We had a fireman with liver cancer, 41 years old, went through his sick day bank. His premium is $3,100 a month. He's writing a check back to his employer for $3,100 a month. He has money sitting in an account like this. So we amended the plan to allow him to start accessing the money. Do you think when you're married with 2 children and have liver cancer, you need to keep your health care? So this is a trigger to get to your money. The other is furlough. During COVID, we had a couple units of government threatening to furlough employees. Furlough is not separation. But the bulk of our people, the trigger is separation of service. You can use it for really anything you would normally incur a flexible spending account for. Copays, deductibles, dental, vision, chiropractic, coinsurance, and the big ones, premiums. Our thousands of claims a month that we handle, the bulk of them are premium only because people have a finite amount of money in that account and they're going to be pretty frugal on how they want to take it out. Who can I use this account on? It's the key thing is the bottom bullet point. Anybody you're taking an exemption for on your federal income tax return. Spouse, children, mom and dad are in a nursing home and they're your tax dependents, you can use it on them. Okay? So in all the years we've been doing this, and I'm sorry, it's a story you've heard before, we had denied a total of 5 claims, it's now down to 4. So who can you use this on? The first claim we ever denied was on a drug called prednisone. The problem wasn't the pred, it was in when we did paper, the claim form came in, the dependent's name was listed as Lobo. My D from Buffalo Grove High School, the staff brought it to me and said, who would name their kid Wolf? Or maybe it was an homage to the band Los Lobos, I have no idea. But it was a Naperville cop's dog, nice try. Second was a hot tub without a doctor's note, that was an Aurora fireman, nice try. Third was some elective cosmetic surgery. The fourth was a Peloton without a doctor's note. Rotor saying, hey, can you get us a note of medical necessity? Never heard back. The fifth was a fireman, retired, a little chunky, his words, not mine. The doctor said, hey, you should lose a little bit of weight. His answer to that was a $3,800 electric bicycle. He submitted the claim for the electric bicycle, wrote him back saying, hey, we need medical necessity, a note from a doctor that satisfied the requirements under the Internal Revenue Code regulations. Took about 4 months of him screaming at us, and he got us a note. We reimbursed him. So you basically have 3 different plans. Think of it as fire trucks or police cars or squad cars that you can use. Viva is a 501c9 trust. Section 115 trust is primarily all we've used since about 2012, and you can also use a health savings account. We're going to talk about a health savings account because there's some limitations. AVEBA. AVEBA stands for a Voluntary Employee Beneficiary Association. A group of people have come together to voluntarily have a set of rules inflicted upon them. It's like joining the Army. You join the Army, you're there voluntarily, but they certainly tell you what to do, okay? You're putting a plan together, you're going to set a set of rules, and you're going to live with those rules. It's been around almost 100 years. You can use it for all qualified medical expenses, deductibles, and copays. The problem with AVEBA is if you die without a tax dependent, the money's gone. It reverts back to the trust and gets divvied up among the active members of the trust. 115 trust. They've been around since '99. You can do all the same things AVEBA does. The big advantage of a 115 trust is that it has a death benefit in the event that you die without a tax dependent. It took us a while to figure this out. So, VEBA and death. If you die with a tax dependent, the account is retitled in your survivor's name. So death, unfortunately, is separation of service. We've had a few deaths in our years of doing this. The account is retitled in the survivor's name. So we had a 37-year-old fireman die, 35-year-old wife and 2 children were remaining. The account gets retitled in his wife's name. They have the rest of their lives to use this money tax exempt for health care expenses. So he's dead. Unfortunately, she goes on COBRA, okay? She needs money for health care. If you die without a tax dependent, the account is liquidated after any claims are paid and the funds are distributed to the remaining people in the group. So we had a Naperville police officer pass away in their old VEBA. When he passed away, the money reverted back and got divvied up among the other members of the group. So everyone got about $300 of his account after we paid all final claims. With the 115 trust, if you die with a tax dependent, the money gets retitled in your survivor's name. But if you die without any tax dependents, you have a beneficiary on file. We will issue a check to your named beneficiary. They also get a 1099. They can go do whatever they want with that money. So in my world, if let's say my wife and I, something happens to 2 of us, and let's pretend that our 3 children are off our payroll, no longer tax dependents. My oldest, he'd replace his Yamaha R3 with probably a Yamaha R1. My 22-year-old would invest it because he's prudent. My daughter, she could give it to a cat shelter. I'm not quite sure what she would do with it, with that money. But it's their money, they can go do whatever they want with it. I have a health savings account. I don't know how many of you have an HSA. I love my HSA. The problem is the question is can I use my HSA for health insurance premiums? And the answer is no, unless it falls under 3 specific conditions. Is the high deductible health plan, HDHP, premium part of a COBRA continuation? When you separate service, it's not COBRA that you go on. It's a Special Illinois Continuation Act. So the answer is no. You staying on your employer's plan because you're retired is not going to allow you to use your HSA for premiums. You can use it for your co-insurance, your deductibles, but not premiums. Are you receiving unemployment under a state or federal program? Last time I checked, your pension's not unemployment. And the last thing is that the last thing you want to be is working in your profession at the age of 65. But if you're on Medicare, you can use it on premiums. So those 65 and still working, sorry I offended you. This rule came about in 2014. When you start a new plan, the existing members of that plan, so if a bargaining unit's bringing it in, the existing members of that bargaining unit are going to be afforded a one-time opportunity to not participate. So it's a one-shot opportunity for the membership to allow people that want nothing to do with it to opt out. It's an out for life. It's an irrevocable election. All future members are mandatorily covered. How are these plans funded? It can be sick time, comp time, bonus, longevity, and we're going to go through a whole bunch of examples. Employer contributions are frankly rare, but any form of compensation can go into these. And our experience has been, when we first started doing these plans in 2004, they were end of career only. Somebody's retiring, getting a big payout, they would stick it in here. And they've expanded as time has gone on. So what's typical wage inflation? Or historically, what has it been? What do wages go up annually? Is 2.5% or 3% a fair number? Probably. So think about sick day banks. If you can accumulate a sick day bank, I understand the reasons for it, because something may happen. You may tear a rotator cuff, or you may blow a knee out doing something, or you get sick unexpectedly. That's not covered under duty. So you need something in the bank. But the reality is for most people, they end up not using a tremendous amount of sick days over their career. And basically what you're doing is you're lending money to your employer for 2.5% taxable interest over your working career. You would never do that with a friend. And your employer is certainly not your friend. They're your employer. What's going to grow faster, your wages or your investment account? In 2022 was your wages, I get it. Historically, what's going to grow faster? It better be your investment account. So this is Addison Fire Protection District. We're in a union meeting. They get to accumulate a limited sick day bank. So we're in this meeting. I had a 46-year-old yelling at me going, hey, I was told by a gray hair when I started to never take a sick day because I get a really big check when I walk out the door. And I'm sometimes a little ready, shoot, aim, and I flippantly go, geez, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let's put some math behind it. So 2.5% wage inflation, 2,080 hours worked a year. That number's wrong in this, so I apologize. It's actually 2,880. It's some other number. 144 hours a year goes into the sick bank. His current sick day bank was 2,500 hours. It's actually 2,497. They capped it at 300. That's an aggressive number, okay? But that was their number. Wage rate of return on the money, 9 years for retirement, and the person has to pay all the premiums. The money deposited, so they settled the contract, 2,200 hours. $92,000 goes into his retirement healthcare funding account, into his 115 trust. Every year, if he doesn't use his 144 hours, it rolls in. Then when he separates, the 300 core hours in the bank goes in as well. So by the time he retires in 9 years, he has $292,000, tax-free. Not bad. So let's say they don't implement the plan. The employer never deposited money into a tax-free account, so that he works 9 more years. He ends up with 3,940 hours in the bank. He gets a check for $193,000. He's got to pay federal taxes on that. $58,842 in Fed. He nets $134,717. So this person, on the day that he's walking out the door, is at the highest tax rate he's ever going to be in his lifetime, at 32%. So let's compare to what this thing does. The sick time ends up being paid out at the end of his career, the $134,000 going into an investment account at 8%. He spends his premium, invests the money, spends the premium, and every month for 45 months, that's all it lasts, covers his health care for 45 months. He ends up with $150,000 of lifetime benefit. The same money, he had $292,000 the day he retired. It runs 110 months. It's $420,000 of lifetime benefit. Same money. You're letting the government subsidize your health care by just running it through the tax code the right way. So this is what these things can do. The catch is there's just limitations on how they have to be structured. So this presentation is on the app now. So this is ways that people have done it. I know like Phil, your bargaining unit's done it certain ways. We know Aurora's got it certain ways. There are many, Mike Hansen and Pontiac, they've done it certain ways. But we're finding more and more plans that we're doing it by years of service. And then at the very bottom right, any form of compensation can go into it. Sick time, comp time, bonus, longevity. The gentleman sitting up front, Richard Sims, he said, how about uniform allowance? Brilliant. So unused uniform allowance mandatorily goes into the plan. So there's many ways that you could fund this, and our experiences, and as time has gone on, they expand as membership becomes more comfortable with it. Tough to read, I apologize. So just different ways of breaking it up. Patrol, you got patrol sergeants, you got detectives, you got communications you got chief and deputy chief. So different ways of structuring this thing on both the police and the fire side. So this is Hoffman Estates Fire. Years of service. I frankly don't know how many members are in the 28 plus years. It could be 3 guys for all I know. But these 3 guys wanted to turbocharge their contributions. On top of it, 50% excuse me, of the healthcare opt-out. So if you opt out of the healthcare, the health insurance, they give you cash. They decided that 50% of that cash went into the plan. 100% of time due, and it's 50% every year. 100% of time due and sick leave incentive all go into the plan at the end of the calendar year. Talked about this one earlier. This is Shaler Township, Pennsylvania. They're using it as a recruiting and retention tool. The employer is putting in $1,500 a year. And I think, Phil, you were asking, I don't know if it was specifically about the retirement healthcare funding and a vesting schedule on employer versus employee money from between the 2:15 and 3 o'clock session. But basically, with this group here, the employer is funding it at $1,500 a year, and they put a 5-year vesting schedule on it. So if an officer leaves within the first 5 years, the employer keeps all that money. The employees are also contributing $100 a month. It's like, it ends up being $33 a paycheck. The employee's money is theirs if they were to leave, plus all the earnings on it. The employer money is subject to a vesting schedule, but once they're there 5 years, it's all their money. And for officers that were already there 5 years, they've already satisfied that requirement. We're seeing more and more bargaining units look to cap their sick day bank. So this one capped it at 400 hours. When they came to contract terms, everyone got paid out dollar for dollar above 400. If you finish the year above 400, it automatically rolls in. So if you don't finish with 400, nothing happens. Got nothing to put into it. Upon retirement, all accumulated sick and vacation time is automatically deposited into the plan. And this unit of government had a terrible history of paying people timely, so they wrote in language about being paid in 30 days. They then eventually added 3% of salary. That came on over time. As members became more comfortable and other members were retirees coming in and talking about how health insurance was so expensive, let's see what other things we can do to get in here. Simple plan. 1% of salary, 100% into career payout. The IRS approved the plan for us in 2007. Let's talk about the 100% into career payout. So the way we wrote the plan was that the bargaining unit could determine annually how much of that into career payout can go in. So from 2007 to 2015, in the union meeting, they would say, hey, if you separate service, all our end of career pay has to go in. So in November 2015, the union president says to the membership, who may retire next year? 3 hands go up. He says to those 3, our contract states this, what do you 3 want? 2 of the guys wanted all the money to go in. 1 of the guys was like, I'm moving to Tennessee, I want my cash. So he said to them, you got 10 minutes to figure it out. Otherwise, I'm calling for a vote for what I want. So the 3 of them decided if you're retired in 2016, half of the money went into your retirement healthcare funding plan, the other half got paid out in cash. They voted, approved it, sent the MOU to Village Hall. So for 2016, it was a 50%. They went back to 100 in 2017 or in 2018. So you can change it, there's some flexibility. We talked about this one earlier. Tier 2, this is Bolingbrook sergeants. They're above, nice place to be, they're above the wage cap. So they're going in asking for the pension contribution that they would have been committed to go into the members' retirement healthcare funding account. Okay? Our limitation in putting these things together is our lack of creativity. Okay? It's got to be formula driven at the end of the day. An individual member cannot say, I want 2%. Someone else, like in a deferred comp, says, I want nothing. It's got to be formula driven. But when you start the plan, you can offer an opt-out. Where does the money go? It basically looks like a deferred comp plan on steroids. So depending on the vendor, you got a portfolio of funds, you've got a managed account, you have a fixed account. You can basically go in and make changes to your portfolio almost every day, depends on the vendor. It's a win-win. It's triple tax-free. It's the only thing in the tax code that gives you 3 bites at the tax apple. It's like a flexible spending account. A flexible spending account is triple tax-free, but the catch with a flexible spending account is use it or lose it, and it's for current year. This has no use it or lose it clause. This has no annual or lifetime maximums. So the money goes in tax-free, grows tax-free, comes out tax-free. What's the catch? It can only be used for medical expenses, including premiums on yourself and someone you're taking an exemption for. It's an above-the-line deduction. If it's structured right, you'll reduce sick time and overtime usage on this thing. Because why do we see people when they've got a bank of money that's use it or lose it? What do you think they're doing? They're calling in sick on their shift day and picking up an overtime day. I'm not going to leave money on the table. So it ends up reducing overtime at the end of the day. Reduces sick time banks, reduces something called OPEB, it's a liability. And it does a couple things. It allows the member to retire when they want to retire. It also helps you recruit because it gives you something that's competitively an advantage versus other entities. The vendors will give you contract language, plan documents, and the resolutions to adopt. It's all pretty straightforward. This is us. We were at the table out there, but it's already cleanup time. Questions? I know I go fast. I apologize. Yes, Mike.
So what was our issue where we're at 509?
Yeah, so
And what was Alan's issue about why he wouldn't want to switch it to something about there was only a letter from the DOI or something?
yeah, so the Village of Pontiac started with a VEBA, 501c9 trust. We wanted to add a 115 trust. The 115 trust has a private letter ruling. His village administrator, the old attorney, decided that the private letter ruling wasn't enough. It's an outlier. There's nothing we can do about it. Okay, when you look at these plans, there's about probably 21,000 VEBAs out there and about 13,000 115 trusts in governments alone. So, I mean, we have an issue with another unit of government where the attorney's like, he thinks it's just, these things are illegal. Nothing we can do about it. So, thanks, Mike. Any other questions? Thank you for hanging here all day. I really appreciate it. And have a great night. See you at the bar.